Do you remember that wedding from a month ago? Yeah, like that one that you needed to start editing yesterday? But you also need to prep today for your wedding tomorrow, and you're leaving for your first vacation in forever on Monday. So what do? It seems that the only creative part of your edits are the excuses you're going to have to give your clients. We have the solution, Wedditor. Wedditor is a team of top wedding editors, project managers, and account coordinators that help us wedding filmmakers edit. They match the right editors with your style so you can spend your time where it matters most, on your business. Nick and I both use Wedditor, and we don't know how we would run our companies without them. It takes a team to build an amazing business, and you shouldn't try to do it all on your own. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor to help you free up your time so that you can focus on growing your brand. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I am joined, as always, by Mr. John Bunn. John, how are you doing today? Oh my word, what just happened?
That was good timing.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I am joined by my friend, my co-host, or regular host, whoever, Mr. John Bunn. John, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. First of all, it's almost Nick's birthday in real time as we're recording.
It's true.
So gifts are on the way to his house, things like that. So I'm really excited about that. And, if you want to send him a gift, just shoot him, a message, things like that. Super exciting that it's his birthday this week. Also, very excited about today's episode.
We had on Mr. Rob Adams again on the podcast. This is his second time to join us, but he has been in the industry for 22 years. Started filming in 1997. We asked him this question. We said, how many weddings have you filmed or edited, been a part of? And it's at least 1,000. And that's not just like some like weird number that we threw out there. Like literally he's been a part of 1,000 weddings, and he has learned a ton of stuff about business, about efficient editing and all that kind of stuff. So today we wanted to spend some time talking with Rob about the editing process and how he has really gotten it down to a science, but also still been able to keep his style and still create these beautiful emotional films. So we are now going to jump into the How to Film Weddings podcast with Mr. Rob Adams.
Let's go.
Today we have the Rob Adams on our podcast. Rob, thank you so much for coming back on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I love talking to you guys.
Yeah. So for people that might not know who you are, why don't you just give us a little bit about you and your business and how long you've been into the industry and, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I was a shepherd, and I was shepherding sheep, and then I decided to shoot wedding films. I'm 22 years I've been doing this. I've been doing wedding films 22 years, mostly in the New York, New Jersey market, and then in recent years I started branching out into the destination market and realized that wasn't where I wanted to live. So now I'm focusing more back home in my home market and leveraging the fact that I'm right between New York and Philly. So I'm doing both Philly and New York. So I'm sort of I've been spreading my time equally between the two cities and finding great success in that. But I've been doing it a long time. Since '97, I shot my first film.
Yeah, that's great. So he is a true titan in this industry. Been educating for quite a long time. I know that there's several of us that have been at for the 7+ years about that really look to Rob as helping us get in. He's tons of education stuff out there.
He's the godfather.
Yeah, definitely. I turned on his Creative Live. I don't know how many 5-6 years ago.
6 years
that
now,
one,
yeah, minimum.
Yeah, that one where it was like a whole wedding in a box kind of thing. That really, I remember watching that and thinking, hey, I can do this. Like so many of us foolishly say, right? But so thank you.
There should have been another component to that course about business.
Definitely.
It's like, here's how to do everything except sell yourself.
Right, definitely. So, he for you younger listeners out there who might not have been doing this as long, Rob is definitely someone that has been around for a while, that knows his stuff, that is a great resource, and we're super glad to have him back on the podcast. The last time on, this was episode like 14, I think 15, somewhere in there. Whenever Rob was on initially,
so.
Yeah, you guys had just you were just starting out.
Yeah. One of the things that we asked you in that podcast was if you had any advice for, people just starting out, what it is, and you said know your numbers. And that is something that has totally stuck with John and I over the last year is, being, knowing your numbers, knowing your money, that side of things. So how has knowing your numbers helped you since, the last time we talked and then moving forward into 2020, keeping that at the forefront of your mind? How's that helped you?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I put out a video not too long ago on YouTube for free. I just threw it out there. It's entitled "Wedding Videographers Don't Make as Much as Fast Food Workers." And
I remember that.
It struck a chord with a lot of people. I got a lot of hate over it, and it was like, I think it hit a little too close to home for some people. I think it made them realize, like, oh, how dare you say I'm not making any money? I'm not making any money. It was one of those things, and it really kind of bolstered my own confidence in what I was saying. Because here I was preaching it. I knew it was true. I wouldn't say it if I didn't know it was true. And then I started going, wow, this is really resonating. There's something really, really big about this. And since then, I focused more of an effort on how can I maximize sales. And I've come to the realization that it's not about maximizing your sales beforehand, although it's important before the wedding. Although it's important to have your packages structured a certain way so it's attractive to get people to book at the highest price point possible. But after sales is where it's at. That's where it's at. So I've really went back and I restructured my packages, and I went and built in a new system and a new set of automations and a whole new process for upselling after the wedding. And I'm finding way more success with it than I even thought was possible. I'm finding clients that are spending on, let's say out of the last 5 brides that I pitched wedding cell upgrades after the fact to, 3 of them upgraded for a total of over 11,000. It was a little bit more than 3,000 a piece. I think one of them actually was like 4. The other one was like 38. It's crazy. Like, I'm finding people are really responding to the fact that they maybe are a little bit more budget conscious before the wedding, but after the wedding, all bets are off. Because if you hit them when the emotions are high, which we do with a little 60-second teaser after the wedding, and we give them something right away, get them really excited, and then you say, hey, in a very non-salesy way, we say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to sell you on anything, but here's how we can give you the best of what we offer that maybe you weren't thinking about beforehand. And holy crap, it's like bells are going off, and people were like, yeah, man, I have no problem dropping $3,000 after the wedding. And this is after they've already spent almost $8,000. So I'm finding these clients that are not, I'm not breaking the 5-digit mark on every wedding beforehand, although that does happen sometimes. But those clients that are lingering around the 7,000 or 8,000 per wedding mark are jumping up over into 10-figure or 5 figures with no problem. So I'm on fire about this and then I'm always looking at my analytics and I'm looking at my numbers, going, wow, this is great. Where can I tweak this to make this even better? Because I know there's no ceiling on this. It's just a matter of how you present it, how you get people to respond to it, how the wording that you use, the verbiage, the amount of emails, the type of emails, and then ultimately when you have the session with them, which is always done virtually, how to present this stuff in a way that's not threatening or salesy or making them feel like they didn't book enough ahead of time. Like, I always support them and say, I think what you have is great. I think what you already have is amazing. And if you said no to me, don't even worry about it. Not a big deal. But if you add this, and this, like, come on, guys, you got to have 4K, right? I mean, you're going to get a 4K TV for Christmas this year. Like, why would you not have a 4K wedding video that I'm going to deliver to you on December 10th? It's ridiculous, right? So just by using common sense, common sense to them and speaking to them in layman's terms, I'm finding amazing success with wedding film upgrades.
Yeah, I think you said something that really stuck out to me that I did a few times this year, and that is, I do have like a base package and then some a la carte options that I add. Starting 6,000 or 7,000, and then several of my couples adding $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of things. And over time, maybe it's leading up to the wedding, you're adding different things, by building that rapport. But the thing I really focused on this year was like what you said. I was sending them a 60-second teaser, and then within a couple of days of that, it kind of happened on accident for me. One bride said, wow, we love that teaser. We've been talking about it, and we definitely want that hard drive with all the raw footage. And I was like, duh, this is the perfect time to strike while the iron's hot. It's like, hey, we just filmed your wedding. It was great. You're supposed to get a 7-minute film. I know with those speeches, we can make this 10 minutes. I know that you're going to want the raw footage. I know you're going to want this. Hey, I'll do all these things that would cost this amount, but bundled together right now. If you want to do it, no big deal. And like every single one of them. Yep, I'll do that. Yep, I'll do that. And what that's allowed me to do is to take 25 weddings this year instead of 39 weddings this year.
Exactly.
And so now I can focus more on my edits. I can focus more on my couples and just, we've really been stepping up our game on just like we send them gifts or we do different things or like we're able to really focus on them and make more per client instead of trying to spread myself completely thin.
And you can focus on your marketing efforts too. You can invest your time back in the business, not just working in on the product itself, but just your marketing. You could go back and, I used to never think I had time to look at my analytics. I'm always like, I'm too freaking busy to actually go through my numbers. Like, I think a lot of people feel that way. They're like, I'm just too busy. I got like 15 films I got to edit. I don't have time to sit down and go over spreadsheets. I wouldn't even know where to start. And if there's a learning curve attached to it, they're even less apt to because they're afraid they just don't have time to do it.
So, when we're talking through these numbers and through these edits and all these different things, you definitely want to just take into consideration that like when you are working with a bride, the initial amount that you're booking her isn't necessarily, or booking or him or her, you're really not limited to that amount. You can always be thinking of ways to serve them better. And if you're serving them, not selling them, they're more than likely going to continue to add more and more things because if you've done your job on educating them on how important the video actually is, over time, they're going to keep adding more and more things. So I wanted to talk real quick, Rob, before we talked about editing and some of the things that we're really excited about. 2020 coming up for you. I know you have a lot of educational things, but what is the 2020 season looking like for you? Kind of what is the amount of weddings you're trying to shoot, kind of the price range, that kind of thing?
Okay, so this coming year, I'm aiming, my quota always bases at 15. So if I reach 15, I'm happy. That's, because aside from just my wedding business and then my education side of things, I also have other things happening. Vanessa and I operate a couple of other businesses. So we have a lot of plates spinning. So I don't ever want to take on too many weddings. So if I hit 15, that's I'm happy. And if I book a few more on top of that, that's fine. I'm already up to 13 for next year, so I'm not worried.
Nice.
And I've got, several, I've always got at least 4 or 5 in the works, meaning, they may or may not book. And, my book rate is low because our price point is higher. So I don't expect everyone to book, but to be filled up this much right before the year starts, we're really right where we should be. And then I was thinking about it because we're on such a head of steam. I've got a great editor working for me right now. She's just crushing edits. You might see her. She's working behind me over there. She's crushing things so hard for us that I would feel comfortable taking another 5 next year and not feel like I'm losing any ground. So, if they come along and I feel like I want to take them, that's where I'm going to be next year, probably around the 20 mark, which is good. And then in terms of educational stuff, I'm constantly working on new stuff. I made a commitment to myself this year to create more educational content, both free and paid. So I'm on a campaign right now, and I've got one of these like Marvel movie timelines. Like if you just looked at this stuff on a screen and you saw like dates and hash marks, it'd be like, this is coming out, this is coming out, this is coming out, this is, and I'm just going right down the line and knocking these things out because I really want to put out more residual evergreen content for videographers. And I just feel like the industry right now, and I think I've said this to you guys in the past, I feel like the industry right now really needs new, fresh faces to educate. I'm a veteran in the industry and I'm a dinosaur. I've been around for a while, but I want to try to reach this younger market that's coming in, this TikTok generation that is so has video just ingrained in their DNA. And I want to try to capture them before they come into the business and make stupid mistakes. Like come into the business without a business plan or come into the business thinking that it's all art and it's no business, which could be furthest from the truth. And so my goal is to really reach as many of these budding videographers as possible and get them on the right track early, because it's once they get into business and they get in over their head, it's too late. Mm-hmm. So that's my roadmap. That's my plan for 2020. And it's both production and post-production because it's equal on both sides, right? The production is what you do. It's the forward-facing end of your business, but your post-production is ultimately what keeps people coming back. So, it's a two-pronged thing, and we got to get them early in order to teach the right methods.
Yeah, man, sounds like you got it all laid out, and you are ready. And I know that you have experience, and you're talking from things that you have learned, about getting the business and like that kind of stuff ready. Everyone that we talk to that has been in this industry for more than what, John, 3, 4, 5 years, they say the same thing. My prices were too low. I got way too much work. My backlog was crazy, and I haven't been able to catch up since. So
Yep.
You having that vision, that plan to catch them early, start them early on the right practices, then I know that will just further the industry and make the whole industry so much better. So that's great that you are doing that. I'm glad you brought up your editor, back there in the background. Today we wanted to focus a lot of our podcast on editing, and I know that editing has been something that you have been talking about for a while. I remember you and your wife, started that editing service for a while ago. I don't know how long that lasted, but I know you
Not
had
long.
that. Yeah.
We were about 4 years too early on that.
Yeah.
If we were to open that today, it would be a different story, but I just don't have the effort. I don't have the energy in me to do it.
Yeah, and I think that like last time we talked, you had just hired your editor, and she and I think because of her, you said this is the first time. And I don't remember how long I've actually caught up on my edits and all that stuff. So you were able to train her very well and work very efficiently and quickly. So editing is something that you have had on your brain. You're good at it. You want others to be better at it. So we thought that we would spend a majority of our time talking about that. So let's start off with this question when it comes to editing. Before we really get into it, and you want to create a film that has your feel and your look and all of that kind of stuff, what are you using like mentally, either on the wedding day or after the wedding, to build your film, to get it to be a Rob Adams film? What kind of things are you looking for maybe on the wedding day or even before the wedding day to build that?
Well, I think you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to understand what your product is. All right. So let's say you were manufacturing doodads, whatever it is. At the end of manufacturing doodads, you need to know what the doodad's going to look like. You need to know what the packaging is going to be like. You need to know where you're going to sell your doodad, and you need to know ultimately if people are going to buy your doodad. So my doodad in my editing is I want it to look a certain way. I want it to have a certain feel. Okay, I want it to invoke a certain emotion when people watch it. I want it to be something that is replicable. It needs to be. I need to be able to reproduce it at the same quality every time. Okay, there's no room for experimentation in the main line of the product production itself. Okay, so like in the middle of manufacturing doodads, you don't just go add on to your doodad, right? You have a whole research and development thing, and you find a way to make the doodad more attractive or whatever, and then that's phase 2, right? Well, I tell people when they're trying to decide what they want their wedding films to be like, you have to have the end in mind and follow a straight line to that end. Now, if you want to try to improve your wedding films, you don't just start by taking the films you just edited and start editing something completely different. You start with a whole new trend, right? So at the beginning of the season for me, it's like, okay, well, this season when I look back on this season on my Instagram feed in November or December, I want to look back on it and see uniformity. I want it to look all very similar. I want it to have a brand. I want it to look very uniform. So in order to do that, I go into the job and I say, what is my ultimate goal here? I want to cover the day because I want to be able to offer doc edits, but I also want it to be very artistic. I want to use like a lot of cool transitions. I don't want a lot of camera motion. Okay. I want my shots. I want the action in the frame to speak for what's happening. I don't need a lot of sweeping shots. I don't need a lot of push zooms and all that kind of stuff. I want a clean, timeless, classic, emotional product. Okay, dialogue is going to help me make it emotional. The pacing and the way the dialogue fits with the music and that sound's going to help it have emotion and life and seem real and have high production value. So when I go into the wedding day, it's like, well, how do I get to that end? I need to shoot clean, right? I need to shoot clean. I don't want to shoot all documentary. I don't want to shoot everything at eye level, but anything I do shoot needs to be static, intentional, and usable. Okay, so I'm setting myself up for success by going into the wedding day saying, okay, I'm not going to worry about using a gimbal too much or a slider. They take time to set up. Yeah, it's cool to see things push and move and stuff like that, but honestly, for my style, I'd rather keep it simple. So I'm going to concentrate on, 90% monopod, 10% tripod, and maybe break out the gimbal, like if it's something that warrants it, like a big Indian Bharat, and the groom's going to be riding through the streets of Philadelphia on a horse. I'm going to be, tracking around him with a gimbal for those shots only. I'm not going to be using it during the first dance, where all I'm going to do is get in the way of the photographers and piss them off. And, so I'm very selective about how I go into the shoot with my process. And that's helping me to achieve the end in mind. So that's the approach to the wedding day. And my second shooter has the same goal every time. When I go into I say to my second shooter, go shoot groom prep and do it very creatively, just like I would. Get your detail shots, get your groom ready shots, put them up against the window, for God's sake, turn off the lights, do all these things that make our signature look underexposure shot. But when it comes to like the first look or the ceremony or the reception, you are my safety guy. Okay. You're going to ensure that I have a safe shot to use in the creative film, but you're also going to ensure that I can give a doc edit that's clean and beautiful. All right. And then that person's role never changes. That's what that person does. And like 9 times out of 10, we'll approach receptions the exact same way. Always during the first dance, parents' dances, that person's always usually we're in grand venues. So that person's always like a low, medium, wide shot that's just getting the whole scene with them in like negative space on the bottom, like in the lower third. And that's how he will shoot that part of the day. That frees me up to be more creative, shoot through the candles, bounce around and get different shots. And then we have the best of both worlds. We have the doc edit, which I've minimized down to like 1 camera. I don't try to do, here I've learned so much about what people want in editing and what people expect. I don't think any bride out there expects a 4-camera clean doc edit. I think we've all been wasting our energy trying to produce something that's way bigger than what is actually needed to be successful, right? Yeah, would it be nice to have multiple cameras all switching around and everything like that? Yeah, it's great. Brides are just as happy with 2 lockdown, safe cameras for the ceremony. Give it to them clean. They can watch it. They're going to be so wrapped up in just watching themselves anyway. They're not paying attention to your cuts. So I'm like, let's just dial everything back and keep it simple, and then focus on the creative. If one person has the safe, the other person is creative, and let's just approach everything like that. So that is getting us to that. It helps again to get us to that end point. So this way, when I hand my editor the footage after the wedding, she knows exactly what we've been trying to do. She's been there. She's like, okay, I know what he's doing. I know what Rob is doing. I know, it's all laid out for her. All she has to do is do what she does every time and tell a beautiful story. And then, we'll talk about what that story is. We'll go through the footage together. A lot of times I've already done the teaser. So I always edit the teaser because I want my hand to be in the creative process also. And then that teaser becomes sort of the guideline for the film. And it's kind of like backwards movie making. Usually you make the movie first and then the trailer. We make the trailer first and then the movie. And so the trailer is sort of based on, or the movie, the film is based off of the mood and the feeling of the trailer itself. So that's our process. I mean, we shoot the same way every time. Same thing with exposures, and like we have guidelines we follow. And then of course there's variations when situations arise. But this is mainly the goal, is to just, when that raw footage hits the edit drive, the jobs are very similar in the way that they were approached, and that's what leads to consistency, which leads to brandability, which leads to better marketing practices, which leads to higher sales.
We know the time suck that is searching for the perfect song for your wedding film. MusicBed has spent years collaborating with artists, bands, and composers to make it easier than ever for anyone to find the right song for their video.
With amazing artists like Chapters, Tony Anderson, and The Light, The Heat, MusicBed is the best place for wedding videographers to get licensed music.
Their subscription service was a life changer for me, especially since all of their subscription music is pre-cleared for every social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, Love Stories TV, and my personal favorite, YouTube, all pre-cleared.
And if you are interested in a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. When you sign up, use the promo code HTFW and you will get your first month for free. I think that what you're really saying here is that your pre-production process is very laid out, and I think a lot of us in this industry think, oh, it's a wedding, I can't do any pre-production, right? I mean, it's a live event. You don't know what's going to happen. So we think, oh, no, we can't. But you have done that in a way, you know, by saying, hey, second shooter, this is your job. You know your job, and this is how we like to shoot. And this is the reason that we shoot this way, so that whenever you are handing it off to your editor, you have this form, you have this thing, so that she knows exactly what it is that she's looking for, so that she can build an edit. And if we, all of us, kind of took that mentality into our edits, into the wedding day, we would be able to have a lot more uniformity in our work because we have planned ahead of time. So that's definitely some really, really great advice.
And you could break it down further than that. Like, so
Yeah.
we moved away from using lights that have to be plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how that's freed us up.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
even from a logistics standpoint, but from okay, it's time to shoot the details of the room. I've got 2 lights on batteries on lightweight cheetah stands. I can move them anywhere I want and shape the light to look like whatever I want. My room, I get excited about room details now. I'm like, I can't wait to get to the reception to shoot room details because I can really play with that lighting scenario and play with the, I get diagrams in my head, and my second shooter sees me and goes, oh, that's cool. I like what you're doing there. I'm like, yeah, no, take one of these lights and go do that on the other side of the room. You know, so it allows for this flexibility and creativeness to flow, and just not having to carry around sliders. And like I said, the gimbal is used so sparingly. I mean, I can just concentrate on filming. Like my last wedding of the year this past weekend in New York City, it was going to be a really logistically tough wedding. We're bouncing around Manhattan, all these different places. The sun's going to be gone by 4 p.m. Ceremonies at 3, right? They do a first look, they do a minimal photo session, and then she wants to go to like Washington Square Park after the ceremony. And I'm like, well, it's going to be freaking dark. So I just had my assistant carry a little torchlight on a stand, and we brought it with us to Washington Square Park and got to shoot, you know, right under the arch and everything. We had all this flexibility because we had this light with us. I mean, it was just a little pre-thought and a little pre-planning of the, you know, thinking about the logistics. Man, it goes so far, and we were able to kill this wedding. Whereas if we went into it blind, we definitely wouldn't have been prepared to tackle it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yep. So now we're going to shift the conversation into the actual, you know, edit of a wedding film and that sort of stuff. And we're coming to our question of the day presented by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than outsourcing, more than freelance. And this is by our friend Evan Lanier. I think that's how you say his name. He asked, what's your organization workflow for import? So what's your, you know, backup process in getting from cameras, from recorders to your hard drives and stuff?
Cool. Yeah, we're actually in transition right now, so I'll kind of explain what our process is coming to be. So after the wedding, I usually try to dump off the cards that night, if I can. Usually, sometimes I'm just too tired or whatever, or sick, like in this case this past week. Excuse me. But I have a Lexar four card slot. Card copier, if you will, Thunderbolt, and so we can just copy the cards in bulk, get them all down onto a one of my main local drives. So I have 2 main local drives that each hold a copy of every wedding, and then we're connected. Both of those get connected to actually, both of those get duplicated to 2 more drives, which go inside off the studio. Back to my house. And then we have both of those local drives in the studio get connected to Backblaze, and they're constantly backed up in the cloud. And now we're purchasing an NAS system. So we're getting a QNAP NAS system where we can edit from, store, and back up directly from one space, like 100 terabytes, right? So we're really fanatical about backup. And then once we've decided where the edit will live, which in the future case will be this QNAP system. The editor I will have already probably imported and keyword tagged for doing the trailer. So that library file will live on the QNAP. And then the editor can just open that file directly because we can share from multiple machines can be connected to this device, and we can edit across as a server. So she will be able to open that up and see all of the keyword collections that I've created, any syncs that I've done, if I've done any syncing for like the ceremony or the first look, that'll all be in there, the project. So I basically import everything, let it copy over into a library, and that gives me another redundancy. So Final Cut will store everything in the library file, which I like, all of the assets. And then I keyword tag. So I'll go down through each day part and keyword tag by bride establishers, bride details, bride getting dressed, bride card, bride dad first look, and then, groom, repeat the process on the groom side, and all the way down through the wedding day, ceremony establishers, toasts, room details, cocktail hour, party, etc. Once I have all the keyword collections set up, then we just, it's a matter of hunting for music. We find the music that we want to use and find a piece that is going to work. Based on the final product of the film, if it's a 5 to 6 minute film, we'll find one piece of music to use. Anything longer than that, and we will find multiple tracks to use to tell the story and the narrative. The next thing we'll do is take the music and prep the music by setting markers, and we kind of predetermine where everything's going to live on the music before we even lay in a shot. So it's all predetermined. And of course, it's flexible. It can be moved around as you edit. And then we sync up all the assets, go through all the dialogue, separate or make favorites of all the dialogue we're going to use. And then we start the story building process. So we just follow that same approach every time until we get to a point where now we're laying in B-roll to the dialogue and the music and making everything work. So it is a strict process, meaning that the editor does the same thing every time. We don't have the same exact keywords every time, keyword collections in Final Cut. It's more like whatever makes sense for that job. But the idea is the same, and the process is the same in steps and in the way that it progresses. But that's basically the process. We like to have everything incorporated into Final Cut. This way, when the job is done, we just export XML of everything. And then if we ever need to pull the job back up, I can actually delete the library file, start a new library file, and import all the assets and import the XML, and I could pull up the job like the day before it was deleted. We don't have to hold on to these massive, because we're shooting everything in 4K. We don't have to hold on to these massive 2 terabyte Final Cut libraries anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Like, just the process. I think that a lot of people, the creative people, it's just kind of like they do something different every single time, and they don't make it, a system, and so they feel like it's killing the art or something. And since doing something similar where I have specific bins and things and just having a process, it actually allows me to be more creative and give me that ability to say, okay, I know all this is here. I know if I need a shot of bride getting ready, I know where those are, and it's like, oh yeah, you get inspired with the edit, and it's like, exactly where you can go to grab a certain clip. So I think that's incredible. If you're listening to this and you're newer, you don't have that figured out, creating these processes are going to help you a ton and save you so much time. And that's really what it comes down to, is time is money. The more time you can save on these edits, the more time you can be focusing on your numbers, and you can be spending with your family or whatever that might be.
And it's not just.
Rob, I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
It's not even just your edits either. I mean, you should have a process in place for everything from your emails to your accounting. I mean, everything should be based on a process. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to ask. So we have a lot of people listening that have, been doing this for a long time. We have a lot of new listeners. What would be some tips for some of the newer listeners? Some tips when it comes to editing that, like, maybe you got, stuck on a lot when you first got going, or tips for when they get stuck editing. What kind of things stand out to you when I ask that?
Very simple. Less is more. Less is more. I think I just got done doing, I'm selling my editing course right now, and part of the promotion was the first 10 people get like a free 30-minute session, and we do like a 1-to-1. And in all of their films, it just seemed like the major critique I had was you're trying to put too much in too fast. Slow down. Effective films have time to breathe. They have moments where it's not boring, but setting the scene and you're allowing things to set up slowly, and then you get to a point where you can start picking it up based on the music and the pacing and the timing. You don't want your film to be one pace or time all the way through. It's got to have these moments of ebb and flow, and I think that if you just open your film and within the first 2 seconds we hear dialogue, it's like, whoa. It's like, give me a second. Where are we? Who are these people? What part of the world are we in? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? So I'm just guiding people to slow it down. And sometimes I have to, my editor edits a lot. She's in here all the time editing. And sometimes I'll go and look at her work maybe midway through a film, and it's just like she's just plowing away. And it looks good, but I'm like, we got to take some of this dialogue out and just give it space to breathe. Because it's like it makes you anxious to watch it. You're like, it's so tense. There's so much being thrown at me. So I always tell beginner editors, just slow down. Less is more, even if it's throughout the whole film. I'd rather give my bride the best top 10% of what I have than give them the entire other 90%, which is not as good. So, I mean,
That's good.
and especially if you're not an experienced shooter and you come back and you only have a very limited amount of what you would consider cream of the crop usable footage, you should be focusing on a method to use only your best stuff. Don't just throw it all in there because it's there. I believe, you should have a lot of quality content, but at the same time, slow things down. Like, because today's trend is, and I mean, there's a lot of great guys doing amazing work out there, but it's all like, whip zooms and push-ins and everything's real fast and then fast time lapse. And it's like, oh my gosh. And it doesn't feel like a wedding. It feels like a stylized 30-second commercial. It's like, give it time to breathe and let people understand what's happening and let room for emotion. Because I've seen great wedding films that are highly stylized, but there is zero emotion to it. And the thing to remember is a wedding is an emotional thing in people's lives. Not every bride is mushy gushy. And you should be able to read your clients and give them what they want based on their personalities. But overall, and generally speaking, people they want to cry again. They want to feel that emotion again. And how do you give that to them? Pace it out. Give them time to breathe and feel it out and have feeling. Give the edit feeling.
I was going to say, up until last couple of years, I really just felt like if it happened on the wedding day, I had to show it in my wedding film.
Right.
And like, if a cake cutting happened and the bride looked even, it was unflattering, her eating a bite of cake, I just still felt like I had to show it because it was documenting the day. And it had to be in that like feature film and like, the dialogue thing that you're saying, like, trying to fit every person's speech, the entire speech in there, and the entire, vows, and instead of looking at it and saying like, what can I peel away from this that is absolutely not necessary to tell this story? Mm-hmm. And the more I can pull out, the better and more emotional my films get. And then you can always add things back in. Mm-hmm. Like if you're like, man, I just don't feel like I have enough of the bride and groom together. It's like, oh, well, here's a couple spots where I can add some more. But I think my mistake for a long time was, okay, I'm going to put this whole speech here, and then I'm going to put these whole letters here. Then the ceremony stuff all needs to go here. And then instead of being like, oh, that one line that dad said could be the whole core of the heartbeat of this entire film.
Exactly.
And maybe we just hear that to start the film. And we don't see anything. It's black, and we just hear it, and it's like, then the music comes, and then it's like, oh, and you get all these. So like less is more. You don't have to include every second of every single thing that happened in your film.
You should also know your audience.
It's a huge mistake that we all make.
You should also know your audience. So for my audience here in the Northeast, the mothers of the brides tend to think the wedding day is about them. There's a lot of like this. The mothers are younger and younger, and the mothers are still very like fashionable and hip, and they get the Botox lips and the lifted eyebrows and all that. And a lot of them want to see themselves, right? And a lot of times they're the ones paying for the film, right? So like, I know that in my films, if I don't include enough of mom, it's going to be a
100%.
problem. And if I don't include enough of the groom's mom, that's going to be a problem too. So there's these points that I have to hit and make sure that at some point I work them in, but I don't have to show every single bridesmaid coming down the aisle. Some of my bridal parties have 30 people in them. Or I think was it Nick? Was it you saying at one point that you no longer put like your bride and groom or the bridal party intros from the reception in your film? You're like, somebody was saying that to me. They're like, I just don't use it. It doesn't make sense to put it in there.
I don't, but I don't know if I said that to you. Yeah,
but it doesn't add to the story, and like people were, and that made me think. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to show people being introduced. Now, if I have a 15-minute film that, like, to say they started at like a 12-minute film and they upgraded, they added 3 minutes on after the wedding, and I need content to fill, sure, but why not?
Right.
But it's editorial decisions. It's the root word of edit. It's edit. You're an editor. Be editorial. Editing is not just placing shots together on a software timeline. Editing is making decisions about what to leave in, what to leave out, and you should know your audience, know your target. And this goes for people who freelance edit too. To be a successful freelance editor for other studios, you need to understand and thoroughly interview that studio and know what their clients expect.
Yeah, that's really solid information. All of that, I really like that point too about knowing your audience and knowing what they want and being able to do that. And you have obviously done that over the years and given your clients what they wanted, and you've also given them what you want in doing that. And by doing this so much, it's like your client wants the thing that you have told them that they wanted because that's what you've showed them. So you're kind of working together, which is a great position to be in there.
It's managing expectations, because that goes back to like the newbie, the new videographer, giving them tips is like manage expectations. You have to know what your client wants and then, be able to deliver that every time, and don't overpromise and underdeliver. The worst thing you can do in this business is overpromise and underdeliver, because if you didn't catch it once, it's gone. You have one chance. So it's very important to manage those expectations.
Good. Right. So you've gone through the process. You've backed everything up. You've laid out your edit. We actually got an email about this not too long ago, and someone was asking about audio for the wedding day, and their question was, is it better to just master all of the audio, like even before you really get into the edit, pull it all in and clean it all up and all of that stuff, or is it better to, get everything laid out, kind of have your film finished and then move into the audio and the color correction? What's your process, and what would you say to that question?
Time is money. I'm not going to spend time editing my audio only to have to go back and edit my audio. It's a double. It's redundant to me. Probably if I had an audio tech on staff, like an audio editor, and I can say, hey man, clean this up and give it to me like all normalized at -12 dB and clean out all the crap and then give it to me and give me clean files to work with, that'd be great, as long as I'm not paying him an extra $300 to do that, right? Well, if you're going to sit down and do it yourself, how much is your time worth? Okay. Or is it better to just work with what you have and then go back and, make it, the most important thing is get it right on the wedding day. Right. But if you have to deal with bad audio, you're going to have to deal with bad audio, whether you do it before or during the edit. So why do it twice? Just, because even when you do it ahead of time and then you bring it in, you're still going to have to normalize and mix to the music and mix to the nat sound. It's a double process. So my process is just bring it all in, label it all out. We actually will label the audio files before we even import them into Final Cut. So you don't get like these Z000293478. You don't get these long string names and you have to figure out by listening what it is. Just name it. Podium, priest, groom 1, groom 2. Groom high, groom low. And then when you bring it in, you know exactly what it is. You just do your edit, concentrate on being creative. Like John said before about, you know where everything is. Now you can just think about being creative and being in the edit. Lay it all in and then do an audio mix. Once everything is in place, the way I teach it is get everything in place, work with your music first, get your music set to a level that's comfortable to listen to while you audio mix. And then once you get all your everything, you basically go source by source and create these compound clips where everything kind of lives together. And then you can use audio transitional fades instead of keyframes. Use audio transitional fades to create places where you can duck your audio. It just makes it much faster than trying to create nodes and drag keyframes. So my course explains this whole process on how we do that. But basically the idea is to do your audio mix as fast as possible. You want it to sound good, but I don't want to spend too much time on it, because that's just going to cut into the amount of overall time that I'm spending doing the job.
It's like the law of diminishing returns. At a certain point, it's like, okay, this audio sounds good enough.
Right.
With the music, most of the people that are going to be watching this, like at a certain point, the audio is solid and good enough. And like you're saying, the more and more times that you go back through and come through again, yes, you can continue. Like every film, you can always keep going back through and changing more and making it better and better. But that diminishing return, just, sooner or later, you're wasting a lot of time and therefore a lot of money. So yeah. I think that's huge to, that's what we do is we bring everything in, get it all set. And then at the very end is whenever we're messing with the audio sound, the audio. And then at that point, is that when you're doing your color as well?
Yeah, I'll do color after that. But here, I just want to add one more thing to that. The best way to deal with your audio is after you get it mixed, close your eyes and play back your film. Whatever stands out to you, go back and fix. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's good.
That's it. Just go
really
back and fix those parts. Because if you sit and try to listen to it as your viewer, you're not watching, you're not distracted by anything here, because they're going to be distracted by what's on the screen. They're not going to be paying too much attention to audio. But if you close your eyes and listen back to it and something sounds weird, it might stand out to them. So go back and fix only those parts. But yeah, so after the audio mix, then we move on to the color grade. And the color grade is a whole process unto itself. I will spend probably almost as much time on color grading than I will on building the whole story. And that's not because color grading takes so long. It's because I've gotten my story building down to a science. So it's like, it's not that I'm spending too much time color grading. It's just that I'm so efficient and fast, and my editor is so efficient and fast doing the story build, that we end up spending an equal amount of time on the color grade. And the color grade is basically go shot by shot, match any cameras that need to be matched, and then your secondary stylized grade goes on top of that. And we get into all of that. Yeah.
So tell me, what CRM do you use? If you're not sure or you don't know what a CRM is, I'm about to save you a lot of time and therefore money. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Basically, a CRM is an online service that helps you better serve your clients. HoneyBook is both mine and John's CRM of choice. We absolutely love it. HoneyBook allows us to do all of our correspondence, contracts, and payments all in one place. One of the features that I love is the automated workflow. We all have emails that we send out to all of our clients, right? At 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, the week of. All of us do it. Automated workflows make it so that those emails can go out automatically. Since I don't have to take time to, 1, remember to send them out, and 2, to write them, I save time and make more money by working more efficiently. Are you interested in saving time on the business side of things? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook for a free 1-week trial. Also, because the Honeybooks really like me and John, we can give you $200 off of your first year, and that also comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook to start saving lots of time in your business. Oh yeah, legally I have to tell you that John and I are affiliates of HoneyBook. So your process is, backing everything up, getting it all loaded, then starting with, your music and your storyboarding, kind of, putting the audio bits where you want them. Then after you get the moments that you want, where you want them, then you add in all the B-roll. Then you're doing audio, then you're doing color to get it all to look right and feel right and all that stuff. So
yeah, and then in between all of that is masking and doing special, certain vignetting to kind of draw the viewer's eye to certain places. There's a whole process into like sweetening and sort of making the film have a certain styled look, like adding a tilt shift effect to certain wide shots and that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So as we're sitting here. Talking, through this, you are a Final Cut guy, so
yes.
That's what you're using. What for our listeners that are in Final Cut, or maybe there might be some that are kind of both for Final Cut and Premiere, and others. Are there any plugins, third-party plugins that you have found in the editing process that like this has saved me so much time, and it doesn't matter the cost; it's 100% worth it?
There are two. One of them is Film Convert. I think I tried to grade. My grading method has changed over the years, but right now we're using sort of a LUT, not a LUT pack. We don't use LUT packs, but we use like a LUT builder that allows you to create your own LUT and then save it. So we have a baseline of which to start with. That is our signature look. Film Convert is my backup, where Film Convert is sort of like the problem solver. If I run into footage that I just can't seem to get to match, Film Convert allows you to choose the actual camera and model, the brand and the model that you're using, and then match it to a certain stock. And it's really helpful in tough situations trying to get cameras to match. We've gotten really good at matching. I mean, we use all Panasonic products at this point, but if I need to match my GH5 to an S1, no problem. We can get them to match. But there are certain circumstances where maybe by accident we hit the white balance button and the white balances are way off. There's just the Film Convert solves problems. It's sort of like isotope for audio. It's just a good thing to have in your toolkit. And the other one I would say that we use a lot would be SoundSoap. I've heard great things about isotope audio, and I haven't actually sprung for it because I think it's pricey for what it is, and generally if I get a good result from SoundSoap, I won't use isotope. But SoundSoap is an old product that's been around for a long time, and if I really have to remove some nasty crap from audio, SoundSoap about 80% of the time is successful with helping me remove some really nasty, like 60 hertz cycle hum and all that kind of stuff. So those are the two things. Other than that, we don't use a whole lot of plugins. Our title packs are based on plugins, but we've since edited them in Apple Motion and then created new presets. So we started with a title pack because I want my branding to be consistent across the board, and that includes titles and everything. So the titles are even the same every time.
Okay, so Film Convert and SoundSoap.
Yep.
Rob Adams approved, definitely.
Yeah.
As we're also, in this whole editing world and all of that stuff, if people just want to be more efficient with their time, with their editing, what practices? And I think you've basically touched on several of these ideas, but if someone's like, what are 2 or 3 takeaways that will make me a faster editor, a more efficient editor? Where would you say start?
Budget and organize. That's it. But you have to budget. You wouldn't go buy, let's say you're starting your business and you want to get into wedding videography. You wouldn't just walk into the store with a credit card and max it out. You would have, hopefully, you'd have a ceiling in mind. You say, I'm not going to spend more than $10,000. That's the max I'm going to spend is $10,000. And if I go beyond that, I have to really question whether or not it's worth it to do that. Well, time is money. Time is a commodity. It's an asset, just like money is. So you shouldn't go into your edits with an unlimited time frame of which to work. You should have a budget. So I'm not going to spend more than 20 hours editing this film. If I'm spending more than 20 hours editing it, I'm costing myself money, because you should know exactly how much 1 hour of editing is costing you. You should know that. And especially if you're paying somebody else, but if it's you should know how much your time is worth. Do you want to be making $11 an hour like a fast food worker, or do you want to actually make money in your business, right? So don't go into it saying, I don't care if it takes me 100 hours, I'm editing this film. That's just dumb. Budget your time, and then you have to organize. In order to stay on budget, you have to have a protocol. You have to have a system to follow. You need to realize, like John said, was talking about diminishing returns, you have to understand when you reach a point and you're like, I'm not putting any more into this, let's just get it done. And I don't mean go halfway through and realize you've hit a wall and you're up against your time limit and go, screw the rest of us, just slap it together. No. It's a layer cake. If you do your layers correctly, each is quality, but you do them at an efficient speed and you do them with quality. But your process, if your process is taking you longer than it should be every time, it's too complicated of a process. You need to dial it back and simplify things and offer a product that is replicable, that is duplicatable, that you can do every time with consistency. That should be the starting place. Then you start adding on things that are more complex, like masking. Like sometimes I'll look at a shot, and if it's a lockdown shot, say from the balcony of a church, and I've got photographers running up and down the aisles, I'll take 5 minutes and sit there and mask them out and do layers, and so you don't see them running up and down the aisles. But I'm not going to do that if I'm up against my time limit, because you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it to spend the time doing this? And that's it. Budget and organization. You have to have those two things. That's where you start. Everything beyond that should be factored in and should be calculated to make sure you're not losing money in the process.
And for those of you out there listening, Rob is, we've said it, but he's 20 plus years of doing this. You learn a thing or two after doing so many edits. How many edits, I want to know, how many weddings do you think that you've been to / edited at this point? In
my 22 years since 97, I'm probably up to, well, let's see, there was about an 8-year stretch where I did close to 60 weddings a year. I wasn't doing them for my company. I was working for another company, and we were doing primarily Sephardic Jewish Orthodox weddings, and they happen 4 or 5 days a week. And there's these big 1,500 person weddings, and they're insane. But they were very cookie cutter. Everything was very cookie. And this is back when nonlinear editing was just hitting the scene, right? So we started on the video toaster. You go bloop bloop bloop, you're zipping back and forth on tape to tape. So we were just cranking these things out, and then nonlinear editing came, and we were able to crank them out. Again, so there were 8-year stretch. I did about 50 weddings each. And then when I started my business, I was taking on too many, doing about 40 a year for a couple of years. And then we got to the point where I dialed it back to like 30, and then ultimately 20, and now 15. I suck at math, guys. Can I pull up a calculator?
The numbers guy.
Can I pull up a calculator?
That's nearing 1,000. Yeah, I mean I
would say it's got to be near 1,000. It has to be near 1,000.
And so the reason I asked this question is because I think that so many of us think that, we've got it figured out. We don't need help from others. And we've been talking a lot on our podcast with other people just about like the importance of looking to people that have done this longer than you or that are doing it better than you and gaining knowledge from them. Mm-hmm. Because in my market, nobody knows who Rob Adams is.
Right.
So if I can take knowledge from somebody that's been doing it for a while and apply it to my company, people think, wow, John Bunn is awesome. And John Bunn's videos are the best. And that's okay.
That's smart.
Especially... that's the way to go about it. I mean, the best artist, you steal like an artist is one of my favorite books, and so it's like, so with all that to be said, sometimes we are lucky enough for some of the artists that have been doing this for so long to create content to help us out. And so we were talking before we hit record, you have a really exciting product. I want you to be able to kind of talk to us and tell us all about your new course. I'm really excited for the listeners to hear about it. So from somebody that has done 1,000 weddings, this is a really exciting announcement.
It's really exciting. The trailer to my wedding film editing course starts out with this statement. I've been wanting to do this for years. This has been in my mind for so many years. I've always wanted to create. I've hired numerous editors over the years, and I've trained them, and I've sat them down. I've had to sit with them and then check their work, and then they do well for a while, then they burn out, and then I got to, replace them with somebody else and repeat the process. Or, I've been editing films for so long, I finally just hit a point where I'm like, I'm just not enthused about this anymore. I need a system. I need something that's going to help me to be artistic, but also make money. So I've always wanted to produce a course that teaches you how to edit, and it's not, look how great my work is, look at this awesome wedding I did, and watch me put it together. This is a course that teaches you everything from organization all the way through to color grade and title. And you watch me edit personally a 4-minute highlights film in real time. And I do the entire edit in 6 hours and 10 minutes. But it's broken down into 6 modules where you can watch each part individually and go through the entire process with me. And it's not a wedding that is one of my best. I didn't even shoot it. I have another crew that I send out occasionally to do just single camera or single shooter, multiple camera, primary kind of shoots. And he went out and he shot and he did a great job, but the job has problems. There's problems with the unmanned camera. There's problems with audio. It's not a perfect wedding day. And you'll watch me edit this in a creative way, but also solve these problems as we go along. So I've created this wedding film editing course. It's available now, and I'm offering it to your audience. If they use the promo code HTFW, they get it at the introductory price of $99. So the price is technically $149. After we released it for a week, it was at $99, and the price went up. Now for you guys with that promo code, it'll only be $99. This is like a training tool, not only for you to become a better editor, but for you to teach somebody or some people on your team how to be editors for your studio. And I've got people writing me going, I sent this off. I have a team of guys in India, and I want them to get them all on the same page and make them consistent. He sent them the course and said, log in and watch this. This is how I want it done. And that's what it's designed for. I want everybody to become better editors by watching it. And I guarantee you, whether you're a veteran or a beginner, you're going to find something in there you didn't know. But it's more for it's a training tool. So you can work on your business and not in it. So you don't have to be bogged down with editing all the time. You can train and hire editors and have a tool to sit. Imagine you go to work at a fast food restaurant. This is probably a really bad analogy. You go to work at some place and they sit you down, they make you watch a video. That's what this is. This is meant for that. But in 6 hours, you're going to train them rather than you sitting there and training them. This is how I do this and this is how I do that. This will walk them through the entire process in editing a quality wedding film in 6 hours.
Incredible. And I think that, like what I said, with 1,000+ weddings under your belt, it's like, imagine, being able to sit with one of the greats, it's thanks, this man. Is a person that has wisdom over time, putting in the work again and again, and for $100. Thank you for the How to Film Weddings promo code. Yeah. I know people are going to be pumped about that, but if you show it to the people that you're training, if you get one tiny little nugget that saves you an hour per wedding in perpetuity forever, it's like, oh, that just saved me, 25 hours a year. That saved your money is going to be paid back. So from investing into this. And we talk about how important education is for your business and how learning from others and gaining that knowledge. And this should be a line item in your budget for the year, is ways to invest into your education or your team's education. Absolutely. So I'm pumped about that course. That's awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, it's hosted on Vimeo on demand. So once they purchase it, you have unlimited access to it to stream it anytime. So it's very, Vimeo does a great job with their hosting on this. I'm so impressed with their on-demand services, just on how they deliver, how they present, and how they, allow you to access the video. So it's a great platform. You can share it. I don't even care, share it with your team. That's what it's meant for. And I'm getting people telling me, they're like, I have 15 jobs or 20 jobs waiting to be edited, and I need help. I got to hire somebody, but I don't know where to start. And they say this is the tool that's giving them the place to start. They just get them in the door, they sit them down, they say, watch this video.
And man, that's great. That's great. And this is a for Final Cut, correct?
It's for any platform. The principles,
Okay,
that's the first question I get is, I see that you're using Final Cut. I edit in Premiere. I'm like, so big deal. The principles carry over. Just because I do things a certain way in Final Cut doesn't mean you can't replicate that exact process in another editing platform. I mean, the method might be slightly different, but the principles are exactly the same.
Right.
So whether you're editing in DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut or even Sony Vegas, all the principles are universal.
Okay, great.
Or Windows Movie Maker.
Or-
Just need to double check on
iMovie.
Movie
Just
Maker.
asking for a friend.
iMovie, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm
okay, great.
editing in Splice on my phone at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a great product for you to have for yourself if you want to continue to edit your films, but you just want to be more efficient. You want to get faster. You want to save time, so save money. Or if you're building a team, or you have an outsourced editor that you want them to do it in a certain way or whatever. A great product for you to look at. So. Couple questions. One, where can they go, if they want to purchase this? And then also, where can people find you, to follow your work and follow you in that stuff?
Yeah, sure. The course is available if you go to www.robadamsfilms.com/edu. There's a link to the course right there that'll take you through to the Vimeo page. You can also just search for it on Vimeo, Wedding Film Editing Course. On Vimeo, it'll take you right to the sales page. Also, just to be notified of new products that I'm going to be releasing. I'm going to be releasing a lot of content this year on the production side of things. If you go to robadamsfilms.com/edu, there's a way to sign up for my email list, and that'll keep you informed there. And then myself, I'm mostly present and most active on Instagram. I feel like my audience right now lives on Instagram. Facebook is more of an older audience, so I'm not really resonating with the older people who are already married, have kids, and are more established. And I'm getting ready to launch my TikTok page, which is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of me dancing in a half shirt. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Man, I cannot wait for that. I just launched my TikTok a week ago. I've got my first 100 followers. More on that later.
Perfect. Awesome. I'll have to pick your brain on how you got 100 followers. Yeah, that aren't going to be all teenage girls.
Anytime, my friend.
Yeah.
Anytime, my friend.
Cool.
Anytime.
No.
Well, Rob, we really appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast today. So thank you. Thank you so much for doing that and giving much back to the community. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys, and good luck to what you guys are, everything you're working on. The podcast is doing great.
Well, thank you, Rob, so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time. If you're listening to this, we want you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com. On our website, we have tons of digital products that you can purchase to buy. One of those is our consultation guide. If you have trouble selling, talking to people through the sales process, we have a consultation guide that will definitely help you. It's a 10-step process that John and I both use that will help you increase your sales. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Please rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher. And until next time, we will see you.
Bye, guys.